Alright, table of contents. Right there. Remember, your page numbers won't match mine. We are subtracting integers today. Remember, pause the video anytime you need to. Alright, that is also your title, subtracting integers. Most likely going to take one page today. Okay? So let's get started. We talked last video or a couple videos ago about what a zero pair is. Okay, so we're going to write down what a zero pair is again. A zero pair, Z-E-R-O, a zero pair is a pair of numbers whose sum equals 0. A pair, meaning two, a pair of numbers whose sum equals 0. So basically that means opposites. Okay, so what's the opposite of negative 9? The opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. So if we were to add those together, if we start on the negative 9 side of a number line and hop to the right in a positive direction 9 times, that would equal 0. That is a zero pair. Do me a favor and draw that number line right there. Go ahead and pause your video right now. Alright, so we're going to do some examples, and I want to see if you can figure out on your own kind of a rule that we can use for subtracting integers. Okay, so I want you to write this problem, 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3. So if we look at that on a number line, I'm going to use a different color for that so it sticks out. We would start at 5. If I can get it to draw, there we go. We would start at 5 and we would take away 3. We'll take away 5 minus 3. We all know the answer is 2. Okay, so the answer is 2. But what direction? We started at 5. So when we subtract, that means we're going in a negative type direction. Or we changed direction. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so let's try something else. I want you to do this to the right of that. 5 plus a negative 3. 5 plus a negative 3. Think back to last week or just a few days ago. I can't keep track right now. I don't know why. 5 plus a negative 3. And we talked about apples and oranges, right? So if I have 5 positives and 3 negatives, we have a zero pair right there. And the answer, 5 plus a negative 3, ends up being 2. So what do you notice? What do you notice about these two answers? All right, let's try something else. Let's do 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5. I'll do it up there on the number line. We're going to start at positive 3. I'm going to write it below. Positive 3. And then we're going to minus. So technically we started at 0. We moved over to the 3 because it's positive. And now the minus sign tells us to move back. Okay, so we're going to go back 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where did we end up? If 0 is right there, we ended up at negative 2. Let's try something else. Let's take the same problem, but do 3 plus a negative 5. 3 plus a negative 5. Go back to when we were adding. How many positives do we have? We have 3. 1, 2, 3. How many negatives? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. We have a zero pair right there. 3 positives, 3 negatives is a zero pair. What do we have left over? Negative 2. So what do you notice about these two answers, even though the problems are different? I don't know. Maybe you're noticing. All right, so we're going to do another one. How about 2 minus a negative 3? 2 minus a negative 3. Well, this one's kind of tough. Okay, you can think of this in two ways. The way that helps me is referencing something that you would learn in English. It's called a double negative. That's what you see up there. You see minus and negative. There's two negatives right in a row, right? So a double negative in English, let's see here. Let's talk about Coach Hammond, okay? If you don't know Coach Hammond, I work with him a lot. And here's what I'll tell you about Coach Hammond. I don't not like him. I don't not like him. In English, don't not, that's a double negative. I don't is a negative. Not is a negative. I don't not like him. Well, what that means is I actually like him. Okay? So those two negatives got turned into a positive. Okay? So 2 minus a negative 3, we start at a positive 2 minus a negative 3. So I want you to also think about those minus signs as just telling you to change direction. Like, oh, there's a minus sign, turn around. Oh, there's another minus sign, turn around the other way. Okay, so 2 minus a negative 3. We have positive 2, right? So that means we'd be going to the right. I think maybe I have to point that way for you. So we'd be going to the right twice. I'm going to do it up here. We would go to the right. We'd start at 0 and go positive 1, 2. But then that minus sign, the first one, that one, tells you, hey, turn around. But then what's the very next thing you see? Another minus, which means, hey, turn around again. All right? So first we start going back, then we start going back the other way. So instead of actually subtracting, it's weird, I know, we would add 1, 2, 3. We would add 3, and you end up at 5. All right, so the way that it helps me is the don't not. I don't not like him. So instead, what I like to do is I like to take that minus a negative 3. I'm going to zoom in on this. I like to take that one and that one. And if we have two straight lines, what can we turn it into? We can turn it into a plus. So it's really just 2 plus 3. Okay? It's funky. It's weird. I get it. I know. So let's go over to the right, and we're going to write a problem a little bit different. We are going to do, instead of subtracting, we're going to do 2 plus, I don't really like that problem. You know what? Don't even write that. I don't like that. So let's look. We subtracted 3, but over here we added a negative 3 and got the exact same answer, right? On the next one, we subtracted 5, and on the other one, we added a negative 5 and got the exact same answer. So I'm curious, and I want you to put your hand up because I want to see. Who would rather, if you would rather add than subtract, put your hand up. That's me. I would rather add than subtract. Okay? So if you noticed, we took 5 minus 3 and turned it into an addition problem. I love addition. Who doesn't love addition? Just adding numbers. So draw a line across. That is one of our rules. Okay? And probably the most important rule there is. You know what? I'm even going to write rules. And I'm not a big rule person, just in general. Add the opposite add the opposite. So there's so many rules in math, and I know it makes it difficult. I get it. But let's try it, okay? So let's write down, we're going to do some examples. -5 minus 3. We're going to change that. Instead of subtracting 3, we're going to add the opposite of 3. Okay? So we have -5. We're going to add instead of subtract. And what is the opposite of positive 3? It's a -3. So we talked last week, or whenever the heck that was, like I said before. So now we're just adding. We got 5 negatives. We're going to combine it with 3 negatives. How many negatives do we end up with? 8 negatives. Just from adding the opposite. Okay? Let's try this one. -2 minus a -1. Let's not minus a negative. Let's add the opposite of something. Okay? So we start with a -2. We're going to take out that minus and we're going to add instead. And then we're going to change it to the opposite of -1. What's the opposite of -1? Positive 1. So going back to the other day, we got 2 negatives and a positive. What do we have more of? We got more negatives. How many more? We have 1 more negative than we do positive. So that means our answer is -1. If I said that too fast, I'll do it right here. We have 2 negatives and 1 positive. What's left? 1 single negative. All right, let's keep going. -4 minus 3. -4 minus 3. Let's flip that. Let's add the opposite. Okay? Now, you may already know this answer because whenever we talk about minus, that means change direction. Well, we're already going in a negative direction because we're going to -4. So really, we're going to keep going in a minus sign type direction. Okay? But if that doesn't click, we're going to add the opposite instead. We're going to keep -4. We're going to take that subtraction sign away. And we're going to add instead. And what is the opposite of positive 3? -3. So, back to the other day, we got 4 negatives and 3 negatives. How many negatives do we have now? We have 7. Okay? Let's do one that might be a little more difficult here. Let's do... I probably should have separated these problems, guys. Sorry. It's hard to write on the iPad. It's hard to write notes on the iPad. There we go. All right, let's do one more, and then the next video is going to have your assignment on it, and I'll help you with some of that. All right, so let's have let's do -25 plus a -37 minus, now let's not do minus, let's do minus a -5. Minus a -5. Okay? Remember, from order of operations, when you're adding and subtracting, it doesn't matter what the order is. You just go from left to right, like you're reading a book. Let's see here. I guess for y'all it would be from here to there, left to right. Alright, so we're going to start with -25 and a -37. That's what we're going to do first. We got a whole bunch of negatives, so my answer is going to be negative. We're just combining more and more and more. Let's see here. -25 and 30 is 55. Plus 7 more is 62. -62. But we still have minus a -5. I don't not. Let's take these two, combine them to add -62 plus 5. What do we have more of? -62. How many more? 55 more. Excuse me, 57 more.